Gators Breakdown, because there's never a dull moment in Gator Nation.
The Gators Breakdown podcast is ready to go. I'm your host, David Waters. You can find me on Twitter at GatorDave_SEC, and coming at you again with another commitment for the Florida Gators, this time locally, staying home to get Kendall Jackson, defensive lineman from Gainesville, Buchholz. And the Gators continue a hot summer on the recruiting trail. June was hot. It's continuing into July right here with the commitment of Jackson. And, man, I just tell you, you're filling up down this defensive side of the football. Big time get there for the Gators and his versatility, what he brings to the table. We'll get into all that right here on this episode of Gators Breakdown. Just a lot of fun. I mean, a lot of fun covering these Gators right now on the recruiting trail. It just seems, we are able to discuss recruiting in a much better light. Gator Nation's happy right now, and we get to continue this good news right here on Gators Breakdown. So hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so yet on your favorite podcast platform, or on YouTube if you haven't subscribed there yet as well. Also, Gators Breakdown Plus, link is in the description to join their Discord. Really good recruiting conversations going on right now on the Gators Breakdown Plus Discord. And, of course, I know all the rankings talk and all that out there that's been discussed, but also some trends that I'll get into on this episode of Gators Breakdown for the state of Florida. We were discussing that this morning on the Gators Breakdown Plus Discord. So you get extra episodes. You get that message board feature there on Discord as well, where you get to have even more conversations with me and other Gators Breakdown Plus members, of course, but also something else coming up. And hey, Florida Victorious, you get 20% off your first month at Florida Victorious using promo code GatorsBD. Link is in the description to join, but you get 20% off your first month right there for Florida Victorious. And, of course, I mean, look, let's just do it. Let's continue to support University of Florida student athletes, and let's keep making Florida an attractive destination for future Gators. NIL is the future. We know that. It plays a huge part in keeping players, plays a huge part in getting players. And right now, you can help by joining Florida Victorious to get 20% off your first month using promo code GatorsBD. One more time, promo code Gators, B as in breakdown, B as in down. There we go. That's what the BD stands for. GatorsBD, that's your promo code right there on Florida Victorious. So, all right, you guys, you know how we do it. Florida just gets a commit. We're going to sit here and break it down. So, Gator Nation, let's do it one more time. We got to commit. And, of course, it is Kendall Jackson. 3-star on the 24/7 Sports Composite, 4-star on the On3 industry rankings. So, a little bit of difference right here. I know, like I said, rankings have been a hot topic right here lately. So, with the recruiting services out there, and now you get one right here with Kendall Jackson. And, of course, right here on the 24/7 Sports Composite, 463 overall, the 47th defensive lineman. On3's own rankings, not counting their industry rankings, they have him a bit higher, so that's why he is higher on the On3 industry rankings. He is a 4-star on the On3 industry rankings, 369, so about a 100-spot difference right here between the two services. For Kendall Jackson, 369 overall on the On3 industry, 31st defensive lineman. Of course, from Gainesville, 6'4", 250 pounds. And look, he wanted to get a spot in this class. We see what Florida's been doing on the recruiting trail. The spots are filling up. Kendall Jackson, I mean, it's kind of been projected for a long time now that he wouldn't leave Gainesville. He'd stay local. He'd be a Gator. But it did, take those other trips here. Kentucky probably being, the other school that was probably talked about the most here. But Kendall Jackson staying local to the Florida Gators. But that was of course, easy to make that trip. Being local, can be on campus plenty of times. And, I think what he was looking for is, how much the staff wanted him. Even though it was easier because he's local, the staff didn't treat him that way. They kept him as a priority. And we'll get into that in just a second. But let's take a look. Let's take a look at his analysis from 24/7 Sports, Andrew Ivins, a scheme versatile defensive lineman with growth potential and developmental upside. has lined up in everything from a wide 9 to a 0 technique at the prep level, but figures to settle in more as an interior player as he's younger for his grade and is believed to already be hovering around 6'4", 250 pounds. We'll get into that in just a second. That has changed. That's the analysis, and that analysis is a little dated as far as maybe where he'll settle in. We'll get into that in just a second, but let's go ahead with the analysis here. Totaled 7 tackles as a sophomore before racking up 12 and a half more as a junior while facing well-respected competition week in and week out in the Sunshine State. Makes the biggest difference with his motor as he keeps his leg pumping and is always looking to clean up the trash. Plays with a nice forward lean and at times can just overpower opposing tackles or guards with his wide base and initial push. Comfortable with a few pass rushing moves, but must keep getting better with his hands as that will also allow him to get off blocks faster and stuff gaps. Should be viewed as a potential multi-year starter at the Power 5 level. Might not be the most explosive point of attack player, but knows how to win with effort, which is important. Could be molded into a variety of different things, but looks like a future 3 or 4-eye heading into his senior season. So one more time on those stats, of course, played there at Buchholz, played some big games. I remember him playing Columbia last year. And I was looking at Jaden Robinson there, just kind of getting some more, just wanted to see what he was able to bring in, watching that game live on YouTube. And it was Kendall Jackson who just popped off the screen to me. He was the player that I was impressed with the most watching that game. But he was a key player for the Buchholz squad that went 10-3, made a run in Florida's new 4S playoff, credited with 65 tackles, 22 for loss, 12 and a half sacks, 3 pass breakups, 2 interceptions, and one of those was a pick 6, and 2 forced fumbles, a playmaker on the defensive side for that Gainesville team. In 2021, as a sophomore, he worked all over the defensive line again for Buchholz. They went 12-2 in 2021. 14 tackles for loss and 7 sacks as a sophomore. All that coming from Andrew Ivins of 24/7 Sports. So, you heard that analysis there, and Jackson's being recruited as the edge jack position for the Gators. That analysis had him more as an inside player, but go back to this spring and some of the interviews that he was giving coming out of the spring, and he let it be known that the Gators see him as the edge jack at the edge jack spot. And it's a position he wants to play himself. That's the position he sees himself at and likes that he doesn't have to change positions. He said, quote, I like how they use it because it shows your athleticism. So at jack, you go from being a stand-up edge to being able to drop back in coverage or rushing the passer, being able to stop the run. It just shows your versatility that a big man can do more than just sit there and play in the trenches. So him being able to play that jack spot, and as we've seen it and how Florida used it last year, you got a lot of roles. You got a lot of responsibility. And the way this defense uses creepers and simulated pressures, you're going, and that spot, you're going to be asked to do a lot of things. Rush the passer. Act like you rush the passer, but drop in the coverage. So with that, remember, go back to the spring, and we got to talk to all these coaches. It's the only time we get to talk to all the coaches. And it was known that Sean Spencer was going to coach the interior defensive line, and now Mike Peterson is going to be coaching the ends and the edge jack positions. Jackson has built a great relationship with Peterson, likes his no-nonsense approach to playing the game, to his coaching style. That relationship has gone a long way in getting Jackson's commitment right here. And you add Jackson to this group now of Jamonte Waller, and him looks like playing and floating around to that inside linebacker jack spot, according to Keith Niebuhr there of on 3. Amaris Williams projects to be lining up at the edge position as well now. So you got these 3 players, kind of right there in that edge jack spot where Waller, Williams, and how that's, Waller, as I said, now being reported that more of an inside linebacker Jack. So, he'll be floating around a bit. We wondered about that with his size. He's not going to play end or edge solely just because of that. But also, just you'd love that pursuit at the linebacker spot that he has shown in his high school film. So Waller, where he can move around a little bit, I like that. And now Amaris Williams lining up at that edge position. And kind of important there because we wondered about the recruitment of Jordan Ross out there. And now I'm not so sure he ends up in this class just because of the spots right here that are filling up in those positions. With Jamonte Waller and floating around the inside linebacker Jack spot, Amaris Williams now projected at edge. And now with Jackson being projected as edge and Jack, not sure is the spot now. And we've kind of, we've heard about that the last few days that, Ross and Florida may not be on the same page anymore. And it might be just because of how well Florida has recruited a position that he'd be. Look, I think if you wanted in, you're finding a spot for him, but it might also be turning him off the way Florida has recruited. Like, look, this was a come and get your spot. And Kendall Jackson, I think that's why we saw him pop a little earlier than expected. Now, there's about a week or so difference now in how this is all playing out there for Kendall Jackson. So now I think he saw the spots filling up. He wanted to get his spot, and the staff has been high on him. I've been high on him, after what I saw last year, a good bit in a few games from there and his film and just how versatile he is, how strong he is. And we'll see, he'll need to be developed, of course, but I like what I've seen so far. I like how Florida's doing this. So now Mike Peterson, you add Waller and Williams and Jackson here. He got some nice weapons to play with coming up in these next few seasons. TJ Searcy, Jack Pyburn from past classes, and now Waller, Williams, and Jackson. All those guys in the coming seasons. I mean, Mike Peterson's got some weapons to play with at edge and Jack right now. So just how all this played out, positions filling up. I'm not so sure what that means for Jordan Ross. I'm probably sure it's a turnoff for him. Maybe more of a Tennessee play now, and we'll see with that. But spots are filling up fast for this Gators class. And discussing that, Kendall Jackson right now, he's the 19th commit for the 2024 class. Ranked third in both services right now. And he's only the fourth player in this class from the state of Florida. And, I've kept mentioning this lately, and, which each commit, what does it mean for trends that's going on in this class? Well, we knew Florida was kind of low on in-state kids. And like I said, I don't think it's a cause for concern much at all. You go get the players where you can get them. But it got me thinking, how often has something like this happened at Florida where there hasn't been that many in-state signees when it's all said and done? So I went back and looked. In 24/7 Sports, you can go all the way back to 1999. So pretty good barometer here. And now, I'll say that just for a second. But let's just get to what I found here. So Billy Napier in his 2022 class, his transition class, the class that he was putting together while he just got the job at Florida. In that 2022 class, only signed 6 players in the state of Florida. And that is the lowest since 1999. Billy Napier's first class is the lowest in-state number-wise. And then you go to 8 in the 2009 class and 8 in the class of 2001. So Gators sitting at 4 right now, and you're counting Hawkins from IMG. He's originally from West Virginia. He just transferred to IMG. So, you're stretching it just a bit to get there. But nothing new for Billy Napier. Now, what I will say, it has changed a bit. He's had some smaller classes, hovering around that 20 mark. So, so he's taking smaller classes, and also you got to leave some roster spots open for the transfer portal more than ever now. Leaving some roster spots for transfers coming in to the program, of course. So that's going to change some things as well, I think. But still worth noting, I think. 6 in the class of 2022 because of what we're seeing this class. And I don't think, I think it takes some time. We know how relationships need to be built and built back up in this state. Just because Billy Napier's in here doesn't mean Georgia and Alabama and Clemson and other schools, Ohio State, are going to stop recruiting Florida and still not have their success at Florida. They've had great built relationships for a while now. So that's not just going to stop. But what's worth pointing out and worth going back and looking at, just to kind of get a barometer of, has this happened before? But, most classes I went back and looked, it's around 13, 14, might get up to 15, but it's hovering mostly around 13, 14 for state of Florida kids in a class. Class size will determine it just a bit, but I wanted to go back, and that's enough data there to go back to 1999 and just kind of see the trend here. But right now, as I said, Kendall Jackson 4, and we look at coming up this week, who could be next to commit to the Gators? Well, then they'll add another. If I had to make a prediction here, I think they'll add another in-state prospect this week, and that would be cornerback Teddy Foster. He commits on Friday. The Gators trending to be the pick there. No surprise. I mean, he gets that offer from Florida, and Florida shoots up this board. He names Florida his leader in June after a visit. He got that offer, came to Gainesville twice. His official visit back in June. Corey Raymond's a big fan of Teddy Foster. 6'2", 170 from Sarasota, so he'd be another in-state prospect there. That would give the Gators 5. But about, I think Florida will get to 25 if they can get the right guys. Zay Mincy is another in-state cornerback that I feel good about for Florida right now. So that'd be another cornerback, another in-state. So that'd get Florida to 6. So you can see where maybe finishing this class is probably going to be mainly focused on in-state guys to finish this class. I don't think it'll be all Florida kids that finish this class, but most of it, these 5-6 spots that are left after Jackson's commitment, I think you start focusing in-state. Mincy and McCray there from Daytona. Teddy Foster right now from Sarasota. So you can see where that number, while it's low right now, is probably going to be built back up in-state to finish this class off. But, it was just a trend I was looking at, and then how far we got to go back to see, but you don't have to go back far. 6 in the class of 2022 there for Billy Napier. And that class was, what was it, around, if I'm here, I'll pull it up right quick, but it was what? Yeah, 20 enrollees. 6 from the state of Florida. So, but that number looks like it's going to be rising here in the coming days, probably coming weeks, hopefully. So there you go. There's your look at Kendall Jackson, the latest commit for the Gators, and where some trends are for this class of 2024. And it's a fun time. Hopefully, like I said, Foster on Friday. Hopefully we're doing another commitment episode right here there for the Gators. And the barbecue at the end of the month with some big names coming to campus. We'll get into that as the days go by. SEC Media Days coming up, so a lot to get into. But as far as recruiting goes, that cookout at the end of the month, and we'll see if that speeds some things up. Get some more commits there for the Gators before the season rolls around. But that'll do it for this episode of Gators Breakdown. I am your host, David Waters. You can find me on Twitter at GatorDave_SEC. Guys and girls out there, thank you for joining me on this episode of Gators Breakdown.